Out in my neck of the woods, it's getting nasty outside. Fresh snowfall followed by pounding rain. Everything's just kind of oozing into one big muddy slop. But that's all right, because inside it's toasty enough by the fire and the Christmas tree is looking beautiful. The other day, my 12-year-old got up before everyone else, tramped through the yard, and returned with a fresh hewn Christmas tree. Every time I look at it sitting in the corner and twinkling at me, I see the beautiful spirit and diligence of my child, and I can't help but thank God for bringing such a marvelous little human being into my life. But enough about me. Pull up a chair, kick off your boots, or don't, I ain't your mama, and let's dive into this episode of Bandito Rubin's Unorthodox Wisdom for Modern Man, the podcast for traditional men of faith and vision who are tired of discovering that Sunday's sermon doesn't always fix Monday's problems. If you're doing everything you can to live by the book and still find yourself feeling sad, mad, sick, or tired, you, my friend, are in the right place. I'm Ruben, husband, father of 7, carpenter, cartoonist, children's book author, and outhouse philosopher who's fixin' to talk about alphabet soup masculinity. There ain't nothing better than being a father and being a man. Who else gets to tromp around the house in big boots, play outside all day long in the mud and grease and grime, freeze their cojones off in the winter, or get scorched to a brittle crisp in the summer? And when you get home, you can be exhausted and fall asleep on the couch and sleep like the dead knowing that you've put in your time. Unfortunately, we guys find that idiot blob in between our ears mucks stuff up way too often. Sometimes I think that if my brain was a farm animal, I'd have relocated it to the freezer a long time ago. Some animals just seem like too much trouble. And some of these troubles sound like bothersome questions such as, what is a man? What am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to be acting in this situation? Now, some of the reasons for all this questioning and self-doubt is pretty obvious. Modern guys feel as disoriented as a drunk skunk because all the old markers of manhood have been disappeared and even vilified. Back in the day, if you could manage to club a lion to death before he ate you, you were doing pretty good. If you could live long enough to have some kids, you were doing pretty good. If you could go raiding with the other Vikings and make it back in one piece, you were doing pretty good. If you could farm enough grain to survive the winter, you were doing pretty good. But now, what even is pretty good anymore? We have so much freedom now, it's kind of terrifying. They tell you that you can be anything you want in life. The sky's the limit. Well, that's cool, but how do you actually do all that? It's like they give you a treasure map, you open the map up, and the dang thing's blank. You say, hey, how am I supposed to know where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do once I get there? And they give you a pencil and say, have fun. This is where a lot of dudes start drifting, settling, and taking the easy road. The road that incidentally keeps you in the shallow end of the kiddie pool. We look around and just pick whatever don't include too many risks, difficulties, or effort without stopping to think, ponder, or look up. Not only is there a deep end to the kiddie pool, but over yonder there is a big pond with a diving board and rowboats and a rope swing hanging out over the water. Heck, there might even be a zip line going across the whole thing. Personally, I've spent a lot of my time in the kiddie pool. I realized that high school cliques and high school popularity die on graduation day, and no one cares if you are prom king or the biggest teacher's pet in the whole school. So I just kind of mucked along into adulthood, got married, started having kids. 8 years later, my marriage kind of sucked, I hated my job, and just about everything else in my life too. Thankfully, I've never been the kind of fella to stay stuck if I can help it. Props to my parents for being the kind of folks who don't stay stuck either. So I started hunting around, trying to figure out where I went so wrong. And that's where I found the whole idea of alpha malehood and beta malehood, which are these models of what a man is supposed to be, how he's supposed to act, and how he's supposed to feel. In fact, everyone on the internet's got their own little model of how a man's supposed to be. We got alpha, we got beta, we got sigma, we got omega, we got gamma, we got pickleball champion. Honestly, it seems like there are more labels for men today than there are genders at a California university, and that's saying something. So which one's right? Alpha male? Sigma male? Those seem to be the two most popular for the obvious reasons which I shall explain shortly. So do I think a fella should get on Google and start trying these alphabet soup paradigms on for size? Well, in my own case, I found it most effective to burn that whole mess to the ground for two very good reasons. One, pyromania's fun. I actually think that early man discovered fire because some caveman witnessed lightning starting forest fires and thought, hey, how can I get in on that action? And two, I think we can do a whole lot better than either alpha, beta, or sigma. Now, the whole letter system of masculinity goes like this. Human society is like a pack of wild dogs. In every pack, there's an alpha male, the leader, the big cheese, the grayback gorilla. He's the man with the plan who's strongest inside and out, the one who gets his pick of the pretty girls and who leads the rest. Everyone else, they're followers or beta males. According to this model, a beta male is the nice guy. You know these fellas. He apologizes for existing. He can't make decisions. He waits for life to happen to him. His wife wears the pants. His kids practically use him as a doormat. He turns into the butt of everyone else's jokes. He says yes because he's scared to say no. He has a perfectly domesticated, conflict-free personality that nobody respects, including him. This is what you get when you raise a boy in an environment where he can get suspended from school for defending himself if Johnny McToothpick throws a punch at him during recess, where he can get in hot water for putting Jimmy in a headlock, where a boy can get written up for overexcitability, or a boy can get put on medication because he wiggles in a chair like some kind of schizophrenic monkey. Well, the truth is, boys are half feral little animals, but that's all right. Learning to control all that energy is a part of the process of growing into good old-fashioned masculine adulthood. Modern Western society, China cabinet full of weaklings that it has become, tranquilizes masculinity. We neuter little boys like they were stray cats and zombify young adults with screens and cheap dopamine. Because otherwise, heaven forbid, they might get dirty, break something, or otherwise cause inconvenience on their way to greatness. And then when they grow up fragile, confused, passive, addicted, directionless, we look at them and say, well, why aren't you a leader? Why don't you take initiative? Why don't you pursue a woman with confidence? Well, he is the way he is because we spent 12 years of shaming it out of him. And that might describe you. I know it sure has described me for quite a bit of my life. Now I want to make it clear that beta male masculinity, for all its easygoing tranquility, is not humility or meekness. Beta masculinity is essentially abdication. And when a man abdicates his God-given role in life, a toxic chemical reaction begins inside him that breeds seething, porn addiction, sucky marriages, passive-aggressive bitterness, shame and self-loathing, the leadership skills of a drunk skunk, the life direction of a professional basement troll, and the backbone of a jellyfish. Now, a lot of these guys wake up one day like I did and realize that being a professional doormat is about as fun as trying to grill chicken thighs with nothing but a lighter and a can of Febreze. And then they panic. They turn tail and run. And they find some kind of cute little tutorial online that identifies the whole beta male modern masculinity problem, and which says the pickup truck that is your life is sitting on 4 flat tires and covered by weeds because you are way too domesticated. The answer you need is to become an alpha male. And then the guide goes on to describe the alpha male in glowing terms, like some kind of used cars salesman with a shiny gold tooth trying to pull a fast one on you. And it is appealing because the alpha male model looks like it recaptures the ancient masculine energy that we moderns have consigned to the burn barrel. Decisiveness, aggression, confidence, sexual pursuit, leadership, direction, courage, risk-taking. I gotta be honest, they got a whole lot right about the way that they proudly own our ancient masculine instincts. These are virtues. In fact, these are pretty essential virtues for most of us guys if we want to be happy and successful in life. These used to be summed up by the phrase, being a man. Mr. Beta reads them and thinks, I guess I better become an alpha male, then I'll feel good about myself, finally get some needs met and stop hating my life. But there's a problem with the alpha male boat. There's a little leak in the hull, some busted gaskets in the engine, so that they're constantly bleeding oil everywhere they go. Drip, drip, drip. So much of this alpha male thing hinges on the relationship between this so-called uber man, alpha male, wannabe Arnold Schwarzenegger, and society. He speaks up, he leads, he makes decisions, he tells it like it is. He's stronger, faster, more powerful. That sounds like social masculinity to me. Sounds like it only works in front of a crowd, because all of that stuff requires an audience, people to be compared to, people to compete against, and people to grovel before your awesomeness. The whole identity depends on being the top dog in a dog pack. But what does that mean if nobody's watching? If nobody cares? If your followers wander off? If your friends move away? Mr. Alpha Male suddenly becomes a lonely little kid again. Alpha masculinity has some virtue, but it's also dependent. And dependency will cripple a fella just as much as being castrated will. This is where the idea of the Sigma male sweeps in like the Dark Knight chasing the Joker. It's kind of a new idea, and it goes something like this. If the alpha male is the top dog and the beta male is all the other dogs, whining and groveling with their tails between their legs, then the Sigma isn't a dog at all. He's a lone wolf. A wise and powerful pack member who strikes off on his own so that he can be self-directing until he chooses to start his own pack on his own terms. Sigma masculinity says, I'm not playing your social dominance game. The Sigma male moves outside the existing social hierarchy. He don't chase, he don't need followers, he don't need approval. He thinks independently, he prefers solitude, he's intense, introspective, self-directive, creative, mysterious, doesn't want to lead crowds, doesn't want to follow crowds, wants to do his own thing in peace. He'll wait in the car rather than go to the potluck. He'll stand by the water fountain and smirk at everyone who's out there socializing and playing games. He's like a modern-day Batman or Clint Eastwood. Sigma masculinity resonates because a lot of guys feel alienated by the modern world, misunderstood, over-domesticated, crushed by a sanitized, over-systematized environment, like the odd man out in life's various social situations, repulsed by social hypocrisy, punished for being masculine, punished for being passive, punished for being confident, punished for having desires. So guys throw up their hands and say, well, screw the hierarchy, I'll be Clint Eastwood. This is especially appealing because it looks like it'll protect you from social pain. Unfortunately, anything that we choose simply to avoid pain is probably a cop-out. And I can't help but wonder, are we certain that this is true independence and inner freedom? Or is this a big boy version of rage quitting? If you look at these guys, especially Batman, they're kind of damaged. Kind of dark hero with a backstory. Kind of emo, if you know what that means. I fear that being a loner is just another role in the pack. Rather than sucking up or lording it, they're going to go sit in the car because they're too cool for all those losers inside. It's reactionary and therefore dependent. So what's a man to do? Pick the letter that sounds best and make it work until it doesn't work, and then pick another letter and figure something else out? No, I don't think that that is the right answer. What's the point of picking a letter at all anyways? Isn't all this letter picking just picking a role, like in a play, a role as laid out by whichever alphabet soup guru is currently trending on YouTube? Because when you say, I'm done licking off everyone else's shoes, it's alpha time, baby, Isn't there a part of your brain that's standing way back in there in your mind, holding the alpha male playbook, feeding you your lines and giving you stage directions? Ditto with the sigma male thing. The problem isn't choosing the right letter. It's outsourcing your identity to any letter. If you're waiting for YouTube to tell you what kind of man you ought to be, it's like asking a lamb how to cook mutton. Because the fact is, all these YouTube gurus are made out of the same stuff as you. They're trying to figure out who they are too. And one of the ways that they reassure themselves is by getting you to slap that subscribe button and buy their course. Now, I'm sure at this point you're thinking, oh boy, well, if you got all the answers, oh wise outhouse philosopher Reuben, what is the proper path for me to take? And how are you different from any of those other bozos that you just bashed on? To which I respond, I don't know what path is the proper path for you to take. And the difference is I ain't selling a course. Give me a couple weeks and we'll get one online. Now that's a joke, of course. I don't want to be another YouTube guru. I'm sure I could make up some kind of new letter definition of how a man is supposed to be. Let's just say delta like the letter D, because every dude's got a ding-dong. And then I can describe it real convincing like, and then you can believe me, and then I don't really think I'd be helping you at all. That little stage director in your head would be standing there with the delta male playbook instead of the alpha male playbook or the sigma male playbook, and the real sick thing is that you'd still be acting along, pretending to be something that somebody else thinks you ought to be. But I ain't you. Only you are you. You are the only one walking around in that body, looking through them eyes, answering to your name, and paying your dog's vet bill. And that is where you gotta start. You. The you that's still there when everyone else goes away. The you that's peering through them eyes. The you that's way back in there pulling the strings. The you that just is. Your inner identity and your ability to tap into that identity is the key to being the kind of man that you were meant to be. A 12th century Greek Christian by the name of St. Gregory Palamas said, "Be still and know yourself, and you will know God." All this searching, all this groping for labels, roles, playbooks, isn't it nothing more than us looking for something on the outside that can give us security and personal power? Something that can give us an anchor so that we're not blown this way and that, striving after peace, chasing our own tail, second and third guessing all the time. The problem at the end of the day is that we don't know ourselves, and we don't know ourselves because we don't know how to be still. We're running this way, trying to find something that makes us feel whole, trying to find God. Now I know we all would say something different. Some of us might say something like, Jesus lives in my heart, or my body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. But how many of us are taking the time to open the doors to that temple and actually going inside? Do not seek abroad for that which is to be sought within. Do not go outward. Return into yourself. In the inward man dwells truth. And if you find that your nature is mutable, transcend yourself. But remember, when you transcend yourself, you transcend the soul that reasons. Reach toward that light by which the soul is illuminated. St. Augustine. You go inside and you find a kingdom. You find a whole universe. You find the one that contains the universe. And if you've got all that inside of you, why are you even worrying about what's outside of you? When you've got everything you need already, then you are strong. St. Isaac the Syrian said, "Make peace with yourself, and heaven and earth will make peace with you." No one can take that away from you. No one can take you away from you. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. That is Marcus Aurelius. This anchor that we find when we take the time to get silent, to get still, to just be, creates peace and dignity within a man, and what is inside a man inevitably overflows into the outside world. Inner stillness and truth lead to the outward expression of that man's true and authentic masculinity. An ancient philosopher named Seneca said the man who is self-dependent is noble. And he also said, what progress have I made? I have begun to be a friend to myself. So often when we think of male strength, we think of things like towers and mountains. These are pretty alpha male, grayback gorilla kinds of visual images. Yeah, I'm a brick wall of manly strength. But there's a weakness in that outward-facing, stiff upper lip kind of charade. The Chinese said the hard and stiff will be broken. The soft and supple will prevail. But what is soft and supple? What can overcome towers, mountains, and grayback gorillas without breaking a sweat? Water. Water is strength. You could superheat it until it turns to vapor and disappears entirely. Is it gone? No, it finds some cool place and then re-solidifies. It stays water. It never stopped being water. Freeze it so cold that it turns into a brick so hard that you could build an igloo out of it. And it's still water. Haven't hurt it a bit. Throw mud in that water and stir it all up until it's brown and thick. Still water. Give it some time and all the mud settles, and there's that sparkly clear stuff. Its strength is a side effect of its identity. I want you to walk away knowing that if you get real with you and you open the doors to that temple deep inside of you and you go in there, you will have everything that you need to be the kind of man that manifests your true masculine strength. Water doesn't brag, it doesn't strut, and it doesn't post gym selfies. It just carves the Grand Canyon. That's what a man who discovers the inner chamber of silence inside is like. He's like water, indestructible and powerful. It cuts through solid rock, and it brings towers to the ground. Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water, yet nothing can better overcome the hard and strong. That is Lao Tzu, an ancient Chinese philosopher. If you have that inner anchor, you don't have to defend anything on the inside of you from the things that are on the outside of you. Other people's opinions? None of your business. Your place in the hierarchy? Who knows? Inside, there's only you and the divine. Lao Tzu, the Chinese guy, said, care about people's approval and you will be their prisoner. Knowing yourself and getting comfy inside the inner temple is the starting point, because we start alone and we also end alone. When you close your eyes, there's only one human being there, you. No matter how hard you try, you cannot change this fact. However, once you get comfortable with that fact and embrace it, this truth becomes an unbreakable cornerstone in your everyday life. It creates a solitary man who is not alone, who can say, I am what I am, no less, no more, I'm just me, and that's enough. Why is it enough? Because that's all God gave us in the first place. Everything else is just icing on the cake. From that nugget of identity, that inner chamber of silence where you go to commune with the divine, you can move out from there with confidence and peace because you already got everything you need, like the Stoics used to talk about. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. That's Marcus Aurelius. You don't need to answer the question, who am I? But you do need to experience it. You are you, and God made you a man. Since you are a man, it means that you do have certain God-given instincts and inspirations to cultivate, build, reproduce, and invest, for example. And when you get real comfy with your own skin, then you can act on those inspirations without constantly consulting someone else's playbook. There is no need to caper about like some kind of moron so that other people can pat you on the back. You're not trying to dominate a tribe or claw your way up a pecking order. Alpha masculinity, in my opinion, seeks safety and satisfaction through dominance. Beta masculinity seeks safety and satisfaction through submission. Sigma masculinity seeks safety through withdrawal and tries to convince itself that it don't need anything after all. But a man who goes inward, a man who has found stillness, a man who has met God in the quiet place of his own soul, that man becomes a completely new critter. He isn't a letter. He don't need a label. He can play whatever role he's called on to play, and it ain't a performance. He becomes indescribably larger than life and too small to pick a fight with at the same time. whether or not anyone else recognizes it. Stillness brings freedom from pointless inner chatter and exhausting outer activity, and it breeds self-knowledge. Self-knowledge becomes God knowledge. God knowledge becomes direction and inner peace. Inner peace becomes outer leadership and unshakable confidence. That inner anchor imparts the strength to do what's got to be done because there is no danger that threatens the inner man, the inner temple, the palace of silence where God lives. It isn't about the man who shouts the loudest, who sucks up to the right people, or manages to look the coolest while going his own way. It's about the man with an inner sanctuary who is happy and full of peace. You can have that initiative that those alpha males are gabbing about, but without the insecurity of needing an audience or of needing to achieve anything just so you can feel worthy. God put you here to be you, so go be you. That's what you're supposed to do. There's no need for beta male groveling. That's just misguided survival instincts that mistake criticisms for spear points. Being secure in your own skin brings the humility of transparency, authenticity, and fearlessness that don't need to control other people's opinions about you. It's like the old saying, your opinion of me is none of my business. You can have the independence pursued by Sigma masculinity, but without living in self-exile or the weakness that comes from living a life that hinges on reacting to other people in society. At the end of the day, we all do walk alone, even if we surround ourselves with other people. But a wise man knows that he's never by himself. You don't have to forcefully dominate to lead. You begin by leading yourself into inner stillness, self-knowledge, and communion with God. This frees you from the outward-facing weakness that requires labels, roles, playbooks, and permission from others. You can just be. And from that quiet place, a real man rises up, not as a letter of the alphabet, but as truly himself, transparent, authentic, peaceful, and powerful. So what's the man task for today? 1. Seek the silence within. Take 5 minutes, just 5. You can take more if you want. I would suggest it, but 5's pretty painful if you're not used to it. Now sit in silence and close your eyes. No phone, no music, no podcast, just you, your breath, and God. When the urge comes to reach for distraction, don't do it. Just notice it, let it pass, and stay put. Bring your attention back to your breathing. Your life began when you were conceived, but the rubber didn't really hit the road until you started breathing. And those tires will leave the road about a minute or two after you take your final breath. By bringing your attention back to your breath, you are grounding yourself in one of the most granular elements of being you. When your mind wanders away from simply being present and being you, bring it back to your breath, back to what is actually real for you in this very moment. Habitual thoughts will try crowding in, but if you let them just slide on by and you get back to being present and still and silent, just being you. That's you taking your first swing at being a man who lives from the inside out instead of from the outside in. There's a lot more to this that I would be more than happy to delve into, but I'll leave that for another day. If you liked this episode, go ahead and share it with a friend. Like, subscribe, follow, print it up, and use it for toilet paper if that makes you happy. That's all the outhouse philosophy I've got for you today, so I'll be signing off now. Stay tuned for my newsletter. I will see you fellows soon. God bless.